school district didn't see the advantage to the schools by following the same path on the sale of the Algonac Elementary School, which they in the township sold for much less than its true value, in my opinion. Doug had offered to give advice to achieve the best use of the property to the community, and this was overlooked. At a saving of probably over $70,000 a year and continuing, Mr. Alexander combined the positions of the DPW superintendent, the water department supervisor, a merger that has worked out wonderfully and is saving the city money for a long, long time. Mr. Alexander was able to end a long-standing dispute with the township over the improper notification of a purchase of equipment, which resulted in settling this and the township paying its full share of the cost of the purchased equipment. In addition, he was able to get the contractor who repainted the water storage facilities to repair maintenance problems and completely repaint all the storage facilities at no cost to the city, including reimbursing the city's cost of professional inspection and oversight. Our manager doubled the amount on the existing lease for the use of the water tower to match the amount of a new lease for additional space with a cell phone operator. Both charges bringing each in amount, I believe, to be around $25,000 a year. A similar lease was negotiated with the federal government for use of the space of a tower and back of the water plant. Just recently, Doug questioned why we had let the former Chamber of Commerce building at the boat ramp sit idle, and he has advertised for proposals for someone to use that building. I'm tired of listing the things that this man has done for Algonac in the short time he's been here, and I fear I'm near my 5 minutes. I'm willing to raise my right hand and say that if this man is dismissed, it would probably be the biggest mistake that Algonac has ever made. If his people's skills are...
Michelle Nolan, Algonac. Ritesh, I am going to ask for your resignation this evening. Since you have come on board here, you began your first evening here as mayor insulting me. I have been in this community for over 20 years. I have played intricate parts in various different things within this community, as well as Clay, as well as the entire county. While they may seem small to you, you've been very important. It is very upsetting to continue to watch how this town is being torn apart. It is your job as the council, all of you, your number one job, to ensure the safety of these residents. We're not feeling very safe. You guys can't even get along. You can't make a decision. You can't agree on anything. And it's becoming really blatantly obvious. There's 4 against 3. Whether you like them or not, each and every one of you is in here because it's the voice of the voters. We voted you in. You're our voice. This isn't what we want. We're concerned about our town. All the energy that's being expended in removing people or attempting to remove people, and all the conniving that's going on. This is great energy that could be used to promote our community, to build our community, to bring business into the community. The town's dying. You're doing a great job, guys. You're really doing a great job. You're not supporting what this community once stood for. Why I moved my family here 20 years ago. I will say, at this point, if I had to do it over again, this is not a community I would move my family to. As far as Mr. Alexander, I too feel he's probably the best city manager I have seen in this city over the years. He has done things, unlike the other ones that we have had. It takes time. He's been very methodical in taking his time to make sure everything is correct and making sure that ultimately the taxpayers don't bear the burden of an unnecessary lawsuit. What's been done with Helen is so against ADA, so against. And I, as a disabled person, am really fed up with the bullying that's going on by adults. We have as much value in this community as anyone else. We serve first. We have laws that guarantee that we don't get bullied. We all need to grow up and start doing what we were put in this position for. Otherwise, you can go. As easy as we put you in there, we'll take you out of your position. We're fed up. Thank you. Thank you, really.
Ada Smith, 1021 Market Street. I was going to start out by thanking our city manager for all he's done for us, but I think to took care of that. I want to thank you anyway.
Thank you.
My second thing is I'd like to remind our four-member city council, which seems to be what we have, as the other votes don't count, that the same voters that gave Helen Meldrum more votes than any one of you sitting there will vote again. The four may run the city council, but you don't run the Algonac voters. To decide not to excuse the absence of a council member who has served 12 years on the council and has sadly had a stroke. Helen's not on vacation. She's not on a cruise. She's home working and having therapy so she can get back on her seat at the council. You guys are kicking a person when they're down. That's called bowling, and nobody likes a ball. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen Coley, Algonac, Michigan. Many years ago, the Algonac City Council members at that time chose a city manager form of government. The manager is a chief executive officer and is responsible for the daily functioning of our city. The role of the mayor is primarily that of chairman of the city council meetings and to represent the city in ceremonial events. The mayor has no special standing other than that granted an ordinary council member unless it's been enumerated in the city charter to interfere with or second guess the functioning of the city manager or the city attorney in words or deeds. Having lived in the city for 64 years and having served in management and banking and public agencies, I feel qualified to say that we are fortunate to have Douglas Alexander as Algonac City Manager and James T. Downey Jr. as Algonac City Attorney. We citizens of Algonac should be alarmed if we were to learn that some council members away from the council meeting table have been interacting in person or by telephone to undermine the reputations of Mr. Alexander and Mr. Downey. If they have done so, it would be reasonable for Algonac residents to speak with one voice in condemning the demonstrated lack of integrity. I ask that this be accepted by the city clerk in its entirety and made part of the permanent record.
Cindy Kleppler. I'm here tonight to show my support for our city manager, Doug Alexander, as well as our councilwoman, Helen Meldrum. I'm deeply troubled that the leadership in this community has become one of which we have lost trust in. We cast our votes and elected each of you. We put our faith in you to make decisions for the betterment of our community on behalf of us citizens. I didn't want to spend my Valentine's Day here tonight. I rather doubt that anybody else in this room did either. Excuse me. However, now we have the majority of our council that we feel now needs to be under a microscope. And they're making decisions behind our backs. A council that seems to be wanting to oust the people that are doing their very best to serve this community. I can't make sense of it, and I wonder what the motive is. Is it just because they don't share the same opinions as you, and you only want those in your circle that do? That's not how things are done, and that is exactly why we utilize our right to vote. You can't manipulate the system to suit yourself. At the previous council meeting, the pastor of Woodside read his statement regarding the church no longer accepting the donation of Algonac Alp. I found it quite interesting that at the end of the meeting, Mayor Tess said that she had taken it upon herself to contact the city of Beaverton inquiring about their repurposing one of their schools into an activity center. I found that odd since there was no knowledge that Woodside was going to decline the building in the first place. Why would there even be a conversation on repurposing a school that was said to be going to the church? Each and every meeting, Mr. Alexander would comment if there had been any communication with Woodside, and he stated no, there had not been in contact with him. It seems that he was not in the loop with whatever conversations our mayor and Woodside were having. And then those conversations were not being relayed back to him. Those behind closed door meetings need to stop, and the very person that you're trying to oust, you choose to keep in the dark, making his job even more difficult. This is nothing other than intentional and motive driven. I'm asking for the resignation of the mayor, Irene Bird, Joe Nugent, and Mr. Thompson. Your way of conducting business, representing me and our entire community, is not only disrespectful, it's unconscionable and unethical. Thank you.
Next. Hello, Amanda Goujon, State Street. First off, I want to start off by thanking the council, specifically Mayor Tesh, for calling this meeting so last minute. I'm sure all of us wanted to be here on Valentine's Day. If not for council persons Bembus, Meldrum, and Martin, none of us would have known that this meeting was taking place until, I think, sometime yesterday, and probably would not have been able to attend, and I know that would have broken your heart, no pun intended. The council manager form of government is a system of local government that combines the strong leadership of elected officials, you all here, with strong political leadership of elected officials in the form of a council or other governing body with the strong managerial experience of an appointed local government manager. Case in point, Doug. Doug is, to my knowledge, the epitome of what a city manager should be. He has strived to serve the best interests of the people, which is, if you forgot, the chief function of local government. When it's his work and dedication that has rendered a payday for this city, he does not seek to get credit. He allows this governing body to take credit instead. He has worked hard to keep the community informed on local government affairs, encourage communication between the citizens and all government officers, something certain members of this council have done less than a stellar job of. Most importantly, he has resisted becoming a yes man to this body, believing that problems should be handled on the basis of principle and justice. He has never used his position in city government for his own personal gain or benefit. It is these last two qualities that have most likely been his ultimate undoing with this council, with council persons Martin, Bembus, and Meldrum accepted. The Woodside matter made it clear that there were members of this council working for themselves and not for the people. Doug decided to do the unthinkable, his job. There are people on this council who wanted him to step aside and simply allow Woodside to take over the school, regardless of consequence to the community or to the property itself. Who knew that following city ordinances and demanding that others do the same could be viewed as a negative in a city manager. How dare he demand that they bring the building up to code or see to it that they follow protocol for a zoning variance. Many city employees, former government officials, and people who have had dealings with Doug during his time in Port Huron and here cannot say enough about what a forthright and honest dealing man he is, how smart he is, and how on the ball he is. And yet, you four want to see him dismissed. For what? Being good at his job? Not allowing you to get your way? You are not supposed to work at goals which achieve a personal gain. You are supposed to work for us. At this point, I wish I could say that I'm surprised or confounded by the actions of this council, but that this council continues to take Ms. Bird, Mr. Nugent, Mr. Thompson, and Ms. Tesh. Well, actually, you're accepted here, Ms. Tesh, because you just got in. Do you think that you won't be recalled? Do you think that the wheels aren't already in motion? If you take nothing else away from tonight, please know this. You can and will be subject to a recall. The language is drafted, it's awaiting approval, and petitions will be circulating soon. You want to play fast and loose with government ethics and the truth? Then prepare to pay the piper. Thank you.
Jim Wisdom, 2402 St. Clair River Drive. I was going to compliment Doug Alexander, but Councilman Tuzinowski You did a far better job than I could. Very good. The thing going on here, by the way, is business of unexcusing Helen Meldrum. That's the first step to get her off. And the next step is going to be to appoint Corey Blair to replace her. That's what's going on.
Thank you.
Mayor Tesh and council members. Sorry, Michelle Landry, I'm from Clay. After the election, this town saw a change that began to concern its citizens. A new face in the council that most of the people in this community don't even know. A few days later, they saw that stranger get voted in by some of this council as the new mayor. I'm fairly certain that I'm not alone when I say that that day, everyone wanted to believe that there was some semblance of maturity and held on to the hope that this new face wouldn't try to change this town against itself. Unfortunately, Mayor Tesh, you have done just that. These persistent witch hunts against Councilwoman Helen Meldrum, City Manager Doug Alexander, and the City Attorney Mr. Downey are little more than schoolyard bullying. Do you understand who you see when you look at these people that you're trying so hard to eliminate from position? Do you see the impact that their removal would cause on this community and the citizens? Do you even care? Or is this all part of some personal agenda you have against these people who so bravely fight every day for the very people who live within these city limits? Helen has a history of fighting for this town long before you stepped foot into it. Her fierce dedication to the city and the passion she has for its citizens is commendable and irreplaceable. Doug Alexander's loyalty, dedication to the seemingly endless laundry list of tasks to which he performs on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis for this town are not trivial deeds. The ease in which he completes task after task and seeks to appease the board's every request is not something you so easily sweep under a rug with a fake smile and a chipper masquerade. For 40 years, Mr. Downey's law firm has been a part working with this city in every aspect of its growth, its population changes, and even in every part of its bad times. Those legal matters have kept this city in good standing for so long. To think about trying to remove that comfort, that trust, and that loyalty are absurd, if not reckless. I strongly recommend that this board and Mayor Tesh stop working so hard on this infighting. Quit squabbling and start working together to help this city progress and fight the battles that would help elevate this city rather than working so hard to bring on this internal warfare. Because if you keep working so hard on burning these bridges, you're going to leave this city burnt, fed up, and exhausted with all this petty childishness. People don't like this. They leave when they see drama and instability like this from their own council members. For the love of the city, support one another and start focusing on what's important. Unity. Just because they don't all hold the same opinions as you does not make them wrong. United we stand, divided we fall.
Hello, Sarah Kolchewski. I would first like to state that I'm here in support for Algonac City Manager Doug Alexander. Doug, I'd personally like to thank you for every effort you've made to keep the community apprised of the Woodside situation, or I like to call it scandal. I personally put my trust in you for almost a year at this point. Your professionalism and willingness to field our questions and conduct all the background work demanded of you, not only by council members but also by the community, is a testament to how great of a city manager you are. To the City Council, I ask that each of you re-examine your role as a voice for this community. We see what some of you are doing. Ms. Bird, Ms. Tesh, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Nugent. It is all very transparent and disappointing. We have enough divisiveness in our national politics. Please do not conduct yourselves in a similar manner. And certainly do not take cues from the Clay Township Supervisor Artie Bryson, who has been known to wreak havoc in both Clay and Algonac. You must set aside your self-interest when it comes. You must set aside your self-interest when you sit in that seat to instead look out for the good of our community. If nothing else, the heightened presence at these meetings underscores the fact that you are ultimately accountable to us, the community members.
The attacks on Councilwoman Meldrum, on the City Attorney Mr. Downing, and on City Manager Doug Alexander are a disgrace. It is a waste of your time and efforts. It is also a waste of our time. We should not have to babysit the City Council. We should be able to trust that you have our best interests in mind. While I'm up here, I'd also like to provide some light reading to the Council. It is an Americans with Disabilities Update, a primer for state and local governments, and I'd like to read just a small portion. The ADA allows and may require different treatment of a person with a disability in situations where such treatment is necessary in order for a person with a disability to participate in a civic activity. For example, if an elected city council member has a disability that prevents her from attending city council meetings in person, delivering papers to her home and allowing her to participate by telephone or video conferencing would enable her to carry out her duties. So, I want Ms. Meldrum to participate and be as active as she can on the city council. And I understand why everyone here also wants her to be an active member of the council. But as far as I understand, the council and not one member of the council has reached out to her to see how we could accommodate her situation to allow her to participate fully. That is the concern. This is bullying. And it's bullying not only to Helen, but I feel like to the city manager and the city attorney, and I think that you and we have better things to do with our time. So thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Tesh. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Chris Wilson, 693 Townsend Court. Still at least part of the time around here. It's good to see Mrs. Bird, Mr. Martin, Ms. Meldrum I worked with previously. It's an honor to see George Yackham back here again this evening. I can say George is one of the finest members of the Michigan Bar that I've had the pleasure of dealing with. It's good to see him. I am a former city manager of the city of Algonac. I have 15 years experience, almost, who's county and local government in the state of Michigan, including 4 years here. I'm a fully credentialed member of the International City Manager Association, and I know I come here tonight also reflecting the comments and feelings of many of my colleagues. As a former city manager, I would concur with Mr. Tuzanowski's statement that Doug Alexander is probably one of the finest city managers the city has ever had, myself included. I have from afar, a couple of counties away, looked in awe at some of the things he's accomplished in the 5 years he's been here, under more difficult circumstances than I think I had to deal with in regards to having to deal with a at times combative township and school district. And I salute you on what you've been able to accomplish for this community. When everybody in a boat decides to row their own direction, it goes around in circles. I've chosen to maintain a home here. I've spent a lot of time here. But from my professional and non-professional opinion, the city's been too many decades going around in circles and not going in the direction we need to go. We need to all pull together, all work together. We don't always have to agree, but fully informed and reasonable people, I think, rarely disagree. And when they do disagree, they can do so professionally and politely. I don't think that standard's been maintained for a long time, going back many, many years. I don't know that the termination of Mr. Alexander will hurt Doug. City managers get fired, that happens, I know that. Doug will land on his feet, Doug will do well. Mayor Tisch, I know you've decided to take special interest in blight, and I applaud you for that. That is an issue not just here, but all over the state. This is a form of blight on this community. Meetings like this, when 60 to 70 people take Valentine's night off to come here and express their concerns, that's blight. That goes in the paper. What happens with Woodside? What happens with all these negative stories that go to the paper? That's blight on this community. And you can't fix it with 2 coats of paint and shingles and a little bit of landscaping. Google is forever. And if you think you're going to hire somebody as good as Doug Alexander, when this is out there, it's not going to happen. Everybody reads, everybody can Google this up. That's just not going to occur. I would also like to wish my best wishes to Jim Downey. to his father for a speedy recovery or at least a peaceful resolution. I also found Jim to be professional and a quality attorney, and I think the city could do much worse. Thank you for allowing me this time to speak. God bless.
Is there anybody else that would like to talk? Okay.
Ed Stanulus, 315 Edgewater, Algonac. Mistesh, I voted for you and I'm very, very disappointed. And I have to admit, I will do my best to see you called, as long as I am very much in need. All of you as board members have taken an oath to support the laws of the state and this country. You have also taken an oath for ethics and ethical conduct. It's in your own documentation. And it says the citizens and businesses of Algonac are entitled to have fair, ethical, and accountable local government which has earned the public's full confidence for integrity. Recognizing that stewardship of the public interest must be their primary concern, members will work for the common good of the people of Algonac and not for any private or personal interest, and they will ensure fair and equal treatment of all persons, claims, and transactions. Look into your hearts. This railroading of Doug Alexander does not meet that standard of ethical conduct. You ought to be ashamed of yourselves. I've been away, but I've heard rumors. I've seen all kinds of things. I'm hearing rumors. I hope you can deny them. Is that you are deliberately working to get rid of Ms. Meldrum so that you can put someone else in who shares your own personal agendas. Citizens have observed Mayor Tesh, Councilpersons Nugent, and Ms. Bird at the Flaming Grill last Tuesday to discuss the firing of Mr. Alexander. Again, Ms. Bird, Mr. Nugent, meet in private with the Woodside people to discuss things and to sow again the seeds of dissension and distrust. You are violating your ethical code of conduct to work as a council for the betterment of this community. I hope you do not vote to get rid of Mr. Alexander. It's a railroad job. We all know it. The community knows it. Stop it.
Is there anyone else? Okay.
Suzanne Fogut, the St. Clair River Drive. If Mr. Alexander is no longer the city manager here, he cannot be on the board of directors at Algonac Housing, and I would not like that.
Thank you. All right, if there's no one else, we'll move on to the new business.
Mayor Cash.
Sorry.
Gail Majors from 1764 St. Clair River Drive. And I'm here to say that I'm glad to see Helen back. And I'm very disappointed in Irene, and Lumiere, and Joe. In my opinion, when a good girl is down, you enjoy to step on her, to replace her with somebody else that you all have in the back of your mind. I believe what the gentleman said. You have somebody from Woodside probably in the plan. In my opinion, the three of you are united. And that's all I have to say, because you're all disappointment.
Hello, my name is Tony Tuttle, and 1205 St. Clair River Drive. I'm also on the Planning Commission. I see that this is very precarious, and uncomfortable, and all I know is Joe and Irene and Eileen are noble people. They've served, especially Joe and Irene, who have served this community so long, faithfully. My heart aches that this has happened.
Thank you.
Mayor Tesh, at this point, if I want to know if you're going to provide me an opportunity to defend myself after the council concludes its upcoming discussion. And I know exactly what I'm being accused of. And if not, I would like to make a statement now. Are you going to provide me that opportunity? I also wish to inform you that I reserve my right under the Open Meetings Act and Section 6C of my contract to move to a closed session before vote to terminate me as held. Section 6C of my contract states, and I quote, "The employee shall be entitled to discuss a proposed termination with the City Council in closed session as permitted by the Open Meetings Act prior to a final determination."
That's what I just asked you, Doug.
Mayor Tesh, my intention is I would like to see the public discussion concluded, and I would like to respond to whatever charges are made against me, and then I would like to recess into closed session.
Is there a motion for discussion?
I'll support discussion, council discussion.
Is there anything anybody wants to say? Otherwise,
Yes, I have plenty to say before we vote on that.
we're going into closed session.
No, we're not going
No,
into
we are
closed
not.
session.
Oh, we're not.
We're not going into closed session.
Just to clarify, the Open Meetings Act says that all meetings are to be held in open session unless you fall into one of the few exceptions. And one of those exceptions would qualify tonight, but that has to be at the choice of the individual who's being reviewed.
That is my right.
At this point, he has the right at any time to say in or out, essentially. So he's exercising his right to have this discussion in an open session, and then at a later time, he would go into closed session. We're clear on the Open Meetings Act, that's all I wanted to say.
That is what I am requesting.
So is it my understanding we had a motion to discuss continuing with our meeting tonight and the city manager's staff performance? Okay, so then we have discussion before we vote that that's what we're going to do. And if I could start the discussion, I'd like to ask Eileen. Eileen, on Friday you met with Artie Bryson regarding Doug Alexander, but not with Doug. Why did you not meet with Doug first?
No comment.
Okay, well, what I did is I personally called Artie Bryson and asked him what you talked about. And Artie Bryson told me that you told him that you were firing Doug and that you wanted to start a different relationship with Clay Township. I'd like to know if you'd explain what you mean by a different type of relationship with Clay Township.
I have no comment.
How in the world are you going to no comment a discussion and expect us to vote on firing a man that you won't comment on? You know, Artie Bryson called me back quicker than you call me back. In fact, you don't call me back when I ask you a question. I'd like the attorney in your free time to start looking into this no comment thing during a meeting to other council people. Do I have to FOIA this? I would like you to respond.
In discussions between individual council members, There's no requirement that somebody respond to the question. I mean, the act of asking the question can be very effective, but there's no requirement that somebody respond. They're not under oath.
Okay. Irene, you went with Eileen. I'll ask you the same questions. Okay. You called the MERS rep without notifying Counselor Doug. Why did you do this without council approval, or at least notifying council that you plan on taking it yourself? That's Doug's job. We're supposed to notify Doug and say, Doug, we have a question about MERS. Can you bring MERS back here? Okay, so you acted without council's approval. Why did you act without council's approval?
No comment.
Now, we're talking about Doug and Doug's job performance, okay? And I'm going to read a quote from the Detroit News Detroit Free Press from 2004, okay? It spoke of your personal bankruptcy, Eileen, of you being sued for 2 clients for $400,000 and you losing 2 cases where women lost custody of their children. You then lost your law license because you violated a court order regarding your pension to pay a creditor when you were running for office for L. Brooks Patterson's seat, and you stated, if voters want someone perfect, there are not many people who qualified. I know Doug's not perfect, but I doggone well know he's qualified. Would you like to comment on that?
No comment.
I've asked you on several occasions, now when Irene was mayor, Doug, Irene, and Cindy would meet every Tuesday before a meeting at breakfast and discuss any issues. You won't do that. In fact, you have not met with the man since the first week of you being mayor in November. More than that, you've met with Artie Bryson more than you've met with Doug Alexander. I find it very appalling and disappointing, and this is nothing except personal vendetta against Doug, who has brought more things to Algonac. I've lived here for 22 years. It took forever to get anything done with that Lions Park. I know Doug's tenacity, nothing with that seawall. He dug through papers forever finding out how he could get $1 million out of the Coast Guard. How does a leader not talk to people? And on top of this, Cindy, our clerk, goes on vacation, gets off the plane in Hawaii. She's also a hired at-will employee who can lose her job if another city manager comes in here. Because we don't know anything going on, and we can't get a call back, Cindy lands in Hawaii with a message that we might fire her boss. And she's worried. So her whole vacation in Hawaii is screwed over because she's worried about losing her job. Artie Bryson knows at 9:30 in the morning that you want to fire Doug. I'm out till 4 o'clock on an email. On top of that, that email tells me, because I said, who is we calling a special meeting? The majority of council. Did you meet with the majority of council to decide that? And if that's no comment, I'd like the attorney to see if that's a violation of the Open Meetings Act, that we have 4 people meeting without the other 3.
It is a violation.
I know it is.
It's true that 3 of you can meet at any one time on city business. However, the charter does say that the mayor has the prerogative to call a special meeting on her own, or it takes 2 council people.
That's correct. But the email said the majority of council. It did not say I decided. It said the majority of council. And what I'd like to know is, did you have a meeting?
No comment.
That's a violation of the Open Meetings Act.
I would like to know, we're here to talk about the job performance. What is your problem with the job performance? I mean, we need to find out why we're here. Why are you wanting to fire him? Somebody needs to start talking.
I had a number of things I had that I could say, but I will state one thing, and that is I've carried a number of things to each meeting. One thing that hasn't been mentioned that I carry is a petition that's signed by our mayor and her husband to fire our city manager and let the attorney go because of one issue between neighbors. On the petition it says neighbors, plural. Bad neighbors is stated that she signed. In actuality, the letter from our attorney said bad neighbor situation, singular, not plural, not including a misstatement by our attorney or an action inappropriate by our attorney. And I've carried that because before the election, she signed it to fire him.
Wow. Wow.
It's right in here.
It was also signed by Cindy Babbitt, who works for Artie Price. Any more discussion? You guys need to start telling us why you want to fire Doug. Is there any more discussion? Yeah, any discussion part. That would be the discussion part. We're going to adjourn?
You have to have a vote on, are we going to proceed with this first? And then Doug wants it to be open meeting. So you're going to have to tell everybody why you want to fire Doug.
We want to know.
So first, you have to
First, Mayor Tesh and council members, the first thing I requested was an opportunity to defend myself against some accusations that are made against me, but evidently there are no accusations against me, only the citizens of Algonac that seem to think I'm doing a good job. So I guess there's really no point in my making a presentation defending myself because there's nothing I'm being accused of.
Exactly. Before we take a vote on the termination of your contract, did you want to have a closed session?
Yes.
How can you terminate this contract?
We are not taking a vote right now for his termination. We are taking a vote to discuss it. That's the motion that was made.
She's the mayor, she don't even know what's going on.
I'd ask for a roll call vote so it can be on a record how each person voted.
To discuss?
Yeah, to end this discussion, then discuss, to end this discussion, and then to go into somebody making a motion to discuss his termination.
No, that, I'm sorry, that, as the attorney explained, I'm sorry, Mr. Emmis, that's not exactly correct. Before you take a vote for termination, I have the opportunity to go into closed session, and that is what I have asked to do. If we come out of closed session, then the council can take the vote at that time. But I think it's very important we go into closed session because I have things to share with the four of you that I think you want to hear.
Oh,
You have to go to end the discussion. And
Want to make a
Right.
motion?
Procedurally, before you go into closed session, you need a motion and a second to go into closed session.
Right.
You have to state the reason of the closed session.
We have to vote to close this
So close
discussion.
discussion.
Is there a motion to close the discussion?
That's all part of it. I'd like a roll call vote, please.
Ernie Bird?
Yes.
Ray Martin?
Yes.
Helen Meldrum?
Yes.
Joe Nugent?
Yes.
Mark Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Cash?
Next on the agenda, items for next agenda. I'd like to talk about blight,
Okay, so the next February 21st meeting, okay?
please.
I'm sorry, maybe our attorney can answer it now. If not, I understand it's got to be on the next agenda. ADA updates, from what I understand, if a council member cannot be in a meeting due to illness of some kind, they can be on Skype. And from what I understand, Michigan law says that can happen.
I haven't spent a great deal of time researching that. I spoke on the phone with Helen today, and she mentioned that. I Googled it and saw the same thing. I thought, wow, this is it's never that easy in life. But I don't know, there might be other cases.
Here, George,
I haven't
this
looked
is
yet.
from the state.
But I can't.
Will you please look so we know by next meeting?
That's from the Department of Justice.
Yeah, I saw this online today. Same thing you did. You got up there and read it.
My question is, does the ADA supersede the charter?
I understand your question.
Okay, so with that, any other items for the next agenda?
Is Doug still employed?
We're not taking any action at this time. Okay, we're gonna do council comments.
Don't smile.
Okay, council comments. Helen, is there anything you would like to say?
I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight. And I'm happy we're not taking any action tonight.
Mr. Bembas?
Yes, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. I really appreciate your support. I do have some important information to share, though. The First Evangelical Lutheran Church on February 15th is having a free community supper, and shepherd's pie is on the menu. And I meant to say it at the beginning, but I forgot. So, you know, there are a lot of good things in Algonac. We have tons of good people, as I see tonight, with tons of good things going on. Like the community dinner, and I know Saturday is the thrift or the flea market at the VFW, and hopefully we'll see some of you there. Thank you for coming out. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Thompson?
Thanks, everybody, for coming. It's nice to see community support.
Thank you. Mr. Martin?
I also want to thank everybody for their support tonight of the issues at hand, and keep paying attention, people.
You got it.
I would like to thank everyone for coming, for your patience while we deliberated so long, and that you all stayed. It shows that you're really concerned with what's going on in Algonac. Thank you again.
Thank you. I also want to thank everyone for coming out. And sometimes, you know, we always, believe me, all of us, we want to do what's best for the city. And sometimes that's not going to be the most popular decision. But we will keep striving. As long as we're in these seats, we'll keep striving. Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Is that necessary?
Yes.
Okay.
No comment.
Motion to adjourn.
second.